So I'm with Bob McCormack, who I've known for many years. He started his career at a regional bank, was there for many years, was the CEO of a community bank, has moved on to be what I would consider to be a tremendous advisor to a lot of middle market companies in the middle Atlantic states under the current banner, which you can see behind him, of Murphy McCormack Capital Advisors. So Bob, can you give people a snapshot of what Murphy McCormack Capital Advisors actually does?
Sure, Ned, and it's been many years, I would say, and certainly learned a lot from you over the years. Murphy McCormack Capital Advisors is a regional investment banking firm. Mm-hmm. We were formed right after I sold Sun Bank to what is now F&B, mm-hmm. and did a fair amount of acquisitions when I was at Sun Bank. Always enjoyed it as a commercial lender as well. And we're a team of about 12 people. About half the team are ex-bankers, so for you commercial bankers out there, there's life after banking. And we service the lower middle market, primarily focusing on closely held businesses and advising them on buy, sell side engagements, corporate turnarounds, financing, those type of things. So it's we work in deal teams, and we've had a lot of success over the years and enjoy what we're doing.
Well, that's obvious. And I know the bankers that I know that have worked with you have also benefited from your expertise. They've also, in many situations, picked up relationships that they didn't have. So it's important to realize that firms like Murphy McCormack are out there and could be great partners for bankers. So we're about 11 months at this point when we're filming this into the pandemic. And one of the things that I've always been curious about is how business owners are thinking about the future. And you deal with a lot of different companies and a lot of different industries. What's changed, Bob, over the last, say, 11 months, if anything, in terms of how business owners are looking at the future?
Yeah, so I think in general terms, and we saw this a little bit with the 2007, 8, 9 recession, think a little bit about risk management, but this time a little bit more in not just the succession risk management concepts, but more in the sense of what happens if I'm disabled, if I'm out a month, mm-hmm. especially if there's revenue concentration with the leadership, mm-hmm. Or if there's customer concentrations or some of those type things. Business owners naturally think they're invincible. So this one though caught some people by surprise. So they, things like buy-sell agreements. Mm-hmm. They did it when they started the company, threw them on the shelf, forgot about them for 30 years. And now suddenly, boy, that's an issue. Or mm-hmm. disability insurance. They never really reflected on that issue mm-hmm. for the longest time. Life insurance type things. Really, cybersecurity. They didn't, working from home and selling remotely over the internet or internet marketing. Mm-hmm. They've always had that in the back shelf. Mm-hmm. Well, we do internet marketing? We do e-commerce, but boy, e-commerce has really taken off. Those companies have been best prepared for it, mm-hmm. literally knocking the ball out of the park. And we have a standard industry COVID bump. We're seeing many of them have a really nice COVID bump, mm-hmm. Where, there might have been $1 million in EBITDA pre-COVID. Now they're $5 million in EBITDA overnight, because they were able to seize those opportunities.
Well, one of the things that's interesting, I think bankers, at least the ones I'm working with, are very dialed into what's currently changing in your business. They're focusing on the COVID-19 impacts. And there's a lot of legitimate concerns in terms of risk management in that regard. One of the things I'm curious about, because this is sort of, it segues into this issue of looking down the road. Historically, commercial bankers, in my experience, have been somewhat reluctant, for reasons that I don't always understand, to delve into the longer term plans of the companies that they're dealing with. Have you seen anything that would refute my theory that bankers aren't really talking enough about these things?
I would say, I would still agree with you, Ned. They don't talk about it enough. Mm-hmm. But I do see more and more starting to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, I'll go back to my days as a commercial banker, and especially at Core States, which was a great training program. Mm-hmm. We had to do relationship plans in every client, which dealt with the wealth management piece, the life insurance pieces, the mm-hmm. succession plan pieces, the personal. You get these personal financial statements. They list the business value at $20 million. Nobody ever tested that value. Is it really? Where'd you get the $20 million number from? Yeah. I'm seeing more and more firms ask that question as part mm-hmm. of their due diligence and underwriting. And then also, what happens? we used to joke that credit officers are always worried about if the glass was half empty instead of it's half filled.
Mm-hmm.
The good credit officers think about what happens if that glass breaks.
Yeah.
And so they're now asking that question, well, what happens if the owner is disabled? Or what happens if the owner passes away? Or their key customer is out of business, or there's something on the supply chain is broken. And then they're spending some time on that relationship plan. You know, many of these business owners, we see this now, you capitalize the business at $100. Now the company's worth $30 million. And next year, we potentially have a tax code change with the estate and gift tax rules, or just capital gains rules changes. Well, that not only affects the value of the business and net proceeds to the owner and their families, it potentially affects the bank as how the bank's going to get paid if there's ever a bump in the road on debt repayment and things along those lines. So I see a little bit more working together between the commercial banking group, the wealth management group. Many banks have great insurance agencies now too.
Yeah.
And you know, that's dry powder sitting there. And then when you pull them all together, that's sticky relationships. For me, you know, thinking back to my old days, you go out and market and say, well, I could do prime plus a half versus prime plus one in your line of credit.
Yeah.
Well, if you have your cash management, your international banking relationship, your wealth management piece, and your insurance piece, boy, that gets pretty sticky to pull that away from that bank. And then it's often value added where you're not in a commodity pricing. I think it's good credit underwriting too, to mitigate those risks.
Yeah. Well, let me pursue that a little bit, because I agree that, you know, when you look at the ways in which a bank can provide value today, certainly if I'm dealing with a middle market business, I've got to think about all the expertise that's resident within my own organization. And I also have to think about the network that I have built up. What advice would you give to, say, a commercial relationship manager who is really trying to add more value in this area and may not have had the benefit of all the training that you and I got in our core states days? What would you encourage them to do?
I would take the time to invest in themselves. You know, I come from my college is Alberta University. The sisters used to teach lifelong learning. I still believe in that. My firm believes in it. As a banker, I would spend the time getting to know understand the whole trust, wealth management, estate tax rules, the capital gains, those type of rules. MASource, actually, which I past chair, we actually have a certification program for commercial bankers in M&A, but we touch on those other aspects as well. And a great opportunity for commercial bankers to learn from that. But I would get to know the good M&A attorneys in the marketplace, the estate attorneys. You know, in general, sometimes when I used to coach bankers and say, you need to call on your COIs,
right? And
they would just open up the yellow pages and go down the accountant list and the attorney list and start with the A's and give up by the C's or D's. But I really think segmenting that group to focus on ones that fit your portfolio. If you're in middle market, call middle market attorneys.
Yeah. Call
middle market attorneys that do wealth management or M&A. If you're in business banking, call attorneys that do smaller transactions.
Yeah.
And you're more likely to get quality referrals back, and you can refer quality business to them. Same with CPAs and wealth management firms. If the bank doesn't have a trust department or wealth management group, and listen and learn from them. One of the things we've seen in some of the markets is kind of deal team groups being formed. So you have a business coach, you have a CPA that specializes in M&A or estate planning. You have a wealth management firm that could be the bank wealth management group, and a commercial banker in that group, and an M&A firm like ours. And they're forming like little deal groups, and they talk about deals. They learn case studies. And boy, the referral networks in those markets. I mean, I look at the Lehigh Valley; it's just been a gold mine for those type of relationships, because we deal attorneys and CPAs will pick up the phone and call. Apologize for that. We'll call and ask questions related to, the transactions or process or understanding how best can we solve this client problem out there.
Well, it's an interesting way to think about, networking, to try to build your own kind of team of experts and think about the areas that might be internal colleagues, your wealth management partner, as opposed to external, the attorneys that specialize in this or the accountants. One of the things that I've come to believe about prospecting is that bankers have to sort of take a position. And in some cases, they take positions on segments. So they say, this is the segment that I'm going to focus on. But it could also be, and you sort of hint at it, the kind of situational challenges that a variety of businesses would face. So instead of just focusing on, make up a story, healthcare, you could look broadly and say, I want to become an expert in how organizations deal with transitions, M&A type activities. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned an organization that I am familiar with, that you've been involved with, which is the MASource. Why don't you highlight for people what that does?
Yeah, so MASource is primarily an educational trade association for lower middle market M&A specialists. We have a certification program to become certified in M&A. It's almost like an MBA program, mm-hmm. specialized in M&A only. And we have 2 conferences every year, one in East Coast, one on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. We have 30 or 40 private equity firms there too. So there's a deal market that's part of that. Mm-hmm. Workshops and things along those lines. We're doing it virtually, as you can guess, with what's going on out there with COVID. But there's a banker program with this too. So if a banker does some M&A type transactions, they can get certified. Now they're going to go through the M&A law class and the M&A corporate finance class and those type things. And some regional bankers here in Pennsylvania in particular have been part of this. They're often participating in the workshops. So they're teaching us too, back on how to finance a transaction or how to do it in a specialized way. You're working with the mezzanine lenders too. So it's a great way to participate. If you're a commercial banker trying to figure out, I want to get to know this industry, but I also want to get to know, how do I do a deal with a mezzanine lender and a private equity firm on an acquisition too? And I've seen it pay dividends for commercial bankers as well. And the classes are absolutely great. I learn a lot from those, and my team does, and many banks support the program across the country too. Yeah,
well, that's great information. I like the invocation of the sisters at Alvernia, and we got to keep learning. We can't stop, and that's a good recommendation. Bob, it's been great fun to connect with you on this. Thanks for joining me here today.
Oh, glad to. And stay safe and warm out there.